Hello and welcome to day 13 of Vlogmas. This is going to get a little bit confusing because I've been away to London and I wasn't able to share anything while we were away. I've got lots of things to show you, but just wasn't able to get stuff up. So, and I did, because we had really long days. It was lovely, we crammed a lot in, but we had long days, so I didn't manage to record like chatty bits during that time. So you're going to see me wearing the same stuff for a few days while I talk to you about bits and pieces and share things, because this is actually the 18th now, but it's just it's the only way I can do it, and I don't want to miss like skip days because I want to have something for each day and kind of share what we've been up to. So I didn't have a lot from the 13th to share with you, so I am going to do the first of the book vlogs that I talked about. I'm going to try and split it into 2 vlogs probably, and then one on Agatha Christie books because I've read a few of them this year, so just so that if you're not fast on those you can skip them or whatever. Yeah, so I hope you've had a nice time in the middle, like in the time that I've not been sharing stuff. I'll talk on one of the other ones about why we were away, and I'll share things. I didn't buy very much when we were away, but we had a nice time looking around. Yeah, it was just lovely. It was nice to have time with my mum and my sister because I don't really get much time with them nowadays, just the way life is. So it was good, but tiring because, you know, when you're not maybe used to a capital city, very often it is tiring to go there, especially just before Christmas when it's absolutely hoaching, as we would say here. But it was lovely. I love London. It's one of my favourite places to go. So it was lovely to get a good look around, and yeah, lots of lovely lights and things. Too much to video, and my phone ran out of battery when I was filming, so I didn't get everything that I wanted to share with you, but I've got a good sort of taste of it. So right, book vlog. I'll try and put the pictures up here to share with you. So I'll just start from going through them in the order that I did this year. So I'm not going to give you the synopsis or a lot of information as such, but I'll just talk about the gist of it in a way without trying to give away too much. Some of them I've read and in book form, some of them have been audiobooks that I've had on while I've been working. The majority of them I've really enjoyed this year, which is great because sometimes you just can't tell, can you? But there are 1 or 2 that I've been disappointed with, which I will tell you as well. I'm still feeling a bit under the weather, but I'm hoping I'm going to make it through it without sneezing or coughing too much. If I do, I'll have to cut just to spare you that. But anyway. Right, so the first book I read this year was called The Snow Angel, and it's a dual timeline, one set in the 60s, I think it was, and one in modern day. The modern day one, this girl is married with children, seems very happy. They're on their way to a party and her husband tells her something, and then they have an accident. And she's kind of got to adjust to a new life and rebuild her life based on this. And there's a betrayal there, but I don't want to give away a lot. She buys a house, and in the house she finds all these paintings of the scenery around, and in each painting there's an angel. But when she looks out, there's no angel there. She's trying to figure out what the angel represents. In the 60s, there's a girl who is coming of age, and her, obviously quite a wealthy family, and her dad wants to get a portrait done. He commissions an artist and she falls in love with the artist, and it can't work, which you find out the reason for in time. But he falls in love with her too, and it all leads to the reason for the angel being in the paintings. So I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I'm trying not to give away too much, but it worked out really well. I did enjoy it, so it's a good one. I listened to that one and it was really good. it's quite nice to listen to ones that are kind of seasonal as well. So that one is called The Snow Angel because it's set around, part of it's set around the winter time. So it was a good one to read at the start of the year. The second one I read was called One for the Blackbird, One for the Crow. Now, I have read one of Olivia Hawker, I'm sure that's her name. Yeah, I've read one of her books previously. I read it last year, and it was, let me just find out what it was called. Was that it, The Forgotten? No, sorry, 2 seconds till I find this. I should have been organised, but I thought I had it. Yeah, The Ragged Edge of Night, and it was based on a true story set in the wartime, the Second World War, and it was a really good story based on part of her family, one of the true stories in her family, which was great. I've got my computer here because otherwise I'll never remember them, and I need to see the pictures to be able to remember, so I'm sorry about that. So One for the Blackbird, One for the Crow is also based on a true story in her family, and I just loved the setup of it. So it's two families that live in America a long time ago, and one woman has an affair with the husband of the other. Her husband kills him, so he gets taken to prison, and the two women have to try and survive with their families in very harsh environment and come to terms with everything that's happened. One of the characters in it I absolutely loved. The daughter, I can't remember her name now because it was like months since I read it, but she's kind of got like a second sight and an ability to work with nature and see and hear dead people and all those kind of things, and just amazing. I loved her. So I was curious to get to the end because that's when Olivia shares what's been the reality of the situation. So I was curious to see if this character was actually like that, but as far as I can tell she wasn't. But I loved it. It was a really good book, very much drew you into the place and the time, and it felt very real. I loved it, so I definitely recommend that one. The third one I read was The Keeper of Lost Things. So a lot of people have read this, and I'm sure you'll have seen and heard bits and pieces around about it. I really loved it. I loved that every item had a story, that they all had little tags with where they'd been found and the significance of small things, and just, yeah, the whole thing was amazing. I really loved it. I especially loved the character Sunshine. And I liked, yeah, that there's a side plot with a couple called Bomber and Eunice, and how it ties in, and it's really good. It's got quite a supernatural feel, and I just loved it. I love those kind of stories. Anything with magic or supernatural feelings, or, you know, like reincarnation, all those kind of things. I love that. So that was a really good one as well. Then I read The Reading List, which was quite different from the ones I've already read, but really good. So it's basically a reading list of 9 books, which are all well known, like Rebecca is on there, and Time Traveller's Wife. Can't remember the rest of them. But this reading list and how it helps so many different people sort of survive and get through difficult times. It was really, really good. And the reality for the husband of one of the characters in coming to terms with losing his wife and things like that was a really good book. There's been quite a few that I've read this year that are connected with libraries or reading or things, and I've really enjoyed them all in their own way. They're all unique, which is lovely. Right, the next one I read was The Witch's Tree. So this one is another dual timeline, one set, I can't remember, 1600s, something like that, about a girl who gets accused of witchcraft, and then a modern day one. Now the modern day character just annoyed the heck out of me, really irritated me, because she was just so self-absorbed. But the character in the 1600s I loved, Grace. She was why I kept reading, because I wanted to know what happened to her, and just, yeah, I know it's fiction, but it felt very much like I could see what was coming, and I wanted to stop it happening, and just wanted to look after her and it was amazing. I loved that part of the book. So you could probably almost skip the modern timeline and just read Grace's story, because it was really good. Although it ties together at the end, so it is worth reading. But yeah, I loved Grace. She was lovely. How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. So this is about a character who lives for a very long time. So in comparison, we are all mayflies because we live for just like a very short time in comparison. So it was really good. It was one of those books I listened to while I was doing other things, but I kind of wish I'd read it because it was so good. I wanted to kind of take more in. I felt like there were bits that it was really significant to me and what I was dealing with at the time and how I was coping with things. Yeah, so it kind of switches back and forth in time between him and the modern day and him in the past and the love of his life and all those kind of things. It was, yeah, a really good book. I've read one of Matt Haig's before, The Midnight Library, and it was good too, but I felt like part of it was very obvious, if you know what I mean. Like the resolution of the story was very obvious, whereas this, I didn't really feel like that, but I really enjoyed it. It was a great story. Definitely recommend it. Then the last one I'm going to share today is like a set of 3 books by an author called A.G. Pierce, and they've all come out quite recently, but I love them. They're set in the wartime, Second World War, and it's about a women's magazine. So this girl is hired to work on the advice column of a women's magazine, and it's basically failing because the woman who's in charge of it won't deal with anything like in the slightest bit scandalous, so absolutely nothing. And she ends up taking home letters and replying to people and trying to help them in different ways and sneaking ones into the magazine and things, and it all blows up. But it was really good. The first one I listened to, and I must be honest, I think I'd have enjoyed it more if I'd read it, because the person doing the narration was quite, at times, very loud when she was portraying one of the characters, very loud, and it was kind of, I think the humour of the book came through more when I read the 2 that follow it. The humour of the writing and the coping with things came through more in written form than it did on the audiobook. So if I was going to, I would go back and read the book instead. But yeah, they're very good. The 3 follow on. The second one, I think that's right. The second one is more slightly less involved with the magazine in some ways and more with life in the Second World War, which was very good as well. I really enjoyed it. And the third one obviously follows on, and I've seen some reviews saying the third one felt quite obvious as well, because you kind of expected the way it went, but I still found it comical. Like, so the magazine gets taken over by somebody else, and she wants to come in and turn it into like a bit like magazines are nowadays in some ways. Super expensive things, everything's fancy, everything's glossy, and nothing's real. And yeah, so some people said they felt that was very obvious and not the same sort of I don't know, feel as the first 2, but I loved it because it was comical. The team pulling together to get the magazine out and try and help people and go against the new boss. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. So I'll stop there as the first book vlog, because if I keep going on it'll be a long chunk and I don't want to do that too much. But if you've read any of the books, I'd love to know, or if you've read something that sounds similar and you'd like to share, that would be great. Yeah, I just love books. It's so nice when I'm doing my yarn dyeing, or if I've got a little bit of time just to sit and knit and listen to something, that's great. Or sometimes I read things as I'm crafting. I sometimes have like 3 or 4 books on the go at the same time, because I'll have one that I'm listening to, one that I have for work that I don't need to focus on quite so much, one that is like a bedtime relaxing one, and one that's like, oh, I'll just grab this and read like a little bit of it and keep going. So yeah, it's nice to have. I know other people, I used to be very much read from the start to the end and that would be it, but it's the same with my knitting. I would pick up things up and put them down, and yeah, I think it just depends on the part of your life you're in. If you've got time to focus on something and you want to work through it from start to finish, that's lovely, but sometimes that's not the way, well, certainly not the way I go about things. But it all gets read and it all is enjoyable. And sometimes I think you need time to process things that you've read as well, depending on what the story is or how you feel about it. It's nice to have like a light and easy read sometimes, but some of them can have quite an impact on you, so it's nice to take your time with them too. So if you've read anything or listened to anything that you think is great, that would be lovely to know. It's always interesting to hear other people's perspectives. As I've said before, I love looking on Instagram at book accounts, because it's just, some of them I'm like, I don't know, that wouldn't be my cup of tea, and some of them, they all seem to be like easy romances, and that's not my thing either. I do read sometimes, but not all the time. I like to kind of mix my books up a bit, but yeah, anyway, I'll stop blethering and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.